Hey guys! So another video that we can do. Basically, I have been on a journey, of course, which has brought me to India, and the reason is that I've been wanting to work on my own frequency to really step into a different form of metaphysical understanding, and possibly the title of shamanship, and to really learn without the plants. Okay, so the plants are truly powerful, they are truly profound, but we and our consciousness, as in you and I, in our pure consciousness stream without the plants, are just as powerful and supreme and godlike. So it sort of brought me to the space of coming up with a topic, and I'll more than likely do a newsletter about this as well. And that is, what our different levels, what sort of levels we move through in terms of our spaces of consciousness, and ascending and awakening. And I've come up with a simple sort of theory which sits with me. I do believe, having been here in India, that it would probably play quite a vital role as to where you live, if you're in a first world space or a third world space. So, I mean, coming from South Africa, as much as we are labeled as third world, I believe that Cape Town is quite a first world space. And, with that comes industry, drugs, alcoholism, a sort of scene, this metropolitan space where we socialize and we are social beings, and we sort of engage outside of ourselves, and this is where all our problems come. So I'm really specifically focusing on that sort of space. So, ultimately it begins with stepping up and admitting that you have a fear. So it's really this analysis of your fear space. What then comes is possibly a series of moving through a bit of research where your belief systems are challenged, and your belief systems then need to be changed. What does that bring? It brings a sort of rebellious nature into you, where you now do things you didn't do because you have a change of perception and perspective on certain things. And so you do things outside of the scope of what your parents may have wanted you to do, etc., etc. And this is really also, please understand, moving up through this space of growing from your teens into your 20s and 30s, etc., etc. So it's changing your belief systems, and possibly not even picking them yet or understanding them yet, but it's really just challenging your belief systems and really waking up to the fact that you have been programmed to a certain degree by mothers, teachers, fathers, and preachers. And so it's really looking at this from a broader perspective. So that takes us into belief systems. That could possibly take you into a space, and within your age, and moving into the space where we experiment with certain drugs, moving through ecstasy or MDMA, mushrooms within the psychedelic space, LSD. I mean, these things have been around forever. And, again, particularly within South Africa, we have a huge trance and psychedelic trance scene, where people get to experiment, which I think is fantastic. We could probably do a video on that as well, and I will, but for now it's really highlighting that people have the opportunity to sort of zone in and explore themselves through the use of what would traditionally be called drugs, but some of those being plants. So your mescaline, your mushrooms, your cannabis, for example, which then moves us to a space of sort of self-exploration and possibly self-understanding, and possibly even more self-doubt, which sort of puts us a little bit on our spiritual path, going, oh my gosh, I thought I knew who I was. I'm moving into my 20s and I actually have no idea. So therefore we open Pandora's box and begin to experiment more, possibly again more with the intention of partying, or it could be for others more with the intention of exploring self and really understanding the mind, the body, the soul. inevitably these things come as we mature and age, and we seek different things within our space. So moving on from there, we would possibly step into a change of intention with regards to our psychedelic use. And I think I'm sort of going to hold on to, you know, the psychedelic space, for example, more than any other drugs that I'm talking about. I'm really just talking about the plants within their psychedelic nature. So, you know, it brings us into the intention setting of really exploring further with our power. It brings us an understanding that we are energy systems, that we are energy, that we are more than just the body and the mind. And so we start to explore further within this space. And I believe that brings us to a point after however much time where we start to consider these drugs as medicines and as sacred teachers, which brings us into the journey space of plant medicine work, where we begin to experiment with ayahuasca, higher doses of mushrooms, higher doses of LSD, really with the intention, again, that intention having changed from just a party setting in a recreational space to really digging deep within our spiritual self. And again, research being done throughout this whole entire process. You know, and then moving into the plant medicine work from there. And then from there, I believe that it would be wise of people to move into a space where I'm sort of calling it your own vibration, God consciousness, cosmic consciousness, Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And it's really the space that I'm exploring at the moment. And it is challenging because with the plants, it really brings you to a space of feeling quite powerful, understanding that you are energy, understanding that you can communicate with benevolent beings, that there are multidimensional realities, etc., etc., etc. And it really puts you in this trance state, an altered state, quite easily. And those of you that are used to your medicines can work and move around and dance around in this space, feeling quite godlike, as said. However, what are we when we are not on the plants? Of course, our vibration is risen. Many things have changed. Our belief systems have changed. We're stepping more into our authentic selves. We're stepping further onto a spiritual path. But I feel that it is quite important to, at some stage, release the attachments to the plants. They will always be there as tools. We know that now within, you know, this level of our spiritual understanding. We know they will always be there as tools. And I think it would be great advice for those of you that have ventured deep into your psychedelic space within your plant medicines to step out of that and now come into stepping into alternative realities and states of consciousness on your own, through your own vibration. So I challenge you all. It is my personal challenge at the moment, which is why I'm in India. My objective is to really raise my frequency to a degree that I can project out of my body, which is astral projection. I know for some people it happens quite naturally, but you know, there's a lot that goes into this, and I believe that I'm struggling to a certain degree, not that much, but because of the work that I do, I'm obviously astounded that I haven't projected out of my body on day 3, but I also understand my role as teacher, and I'm really going through the motion of creating the space, picking out the pitfalls so that I can teach you guys how to do this afterwards, through this patient process of fetch wood and carry water, fetch wood and carry water. So for me currently, I am waking up at about 2-3 in the morning every morning, doing breath work and breathing exercises, sending chi into my body and my astral body, and then lying down and going into my astral exit techniques. So wish me luck on that. Again, this was just a story of sort of the levels of consciousness that we can work through, and that we more than likely do within, you know, quite a zone space of speaking specifically to South Africans or those within this first world culture of partying and festivals and using drugs. They are not all bad, and you know, particularly psychedelics in their space, they have their space as therapeutic. Please start to do more research, open your minds, open your perception, change your perceptions, and really explore, and know that on the other side the hippies out there, or people like me, esoteric in nature, are ultimately trying to find one thing, and that is reconnection with soul, and possibly a second thing, and that is freedom, to experience ourselves as energy within a space that is not confined in our third dimension. So awesome. Thanks for listening, guys. Lots of love. I can hear some shamanic drumming at the bottom, which I might join now. Other than that, peace and shanti to you all. Cheers.